That means that being a leader of people, that means that we're focusing on the individuals that we're leading and not necessarily solely lasered focused in on instruction. And I think that instruction definitely moves the needle in terms of increasing student achievement. But if you don't lead people first, you will never get the results that you're looking for. What's going on, aspiring school leader? I am Dr. Donovan Smalls II, and welcome to Beyond the Classroom. I help aspiring school leaders land their first leadership role, navigate complex dynamics, enhance communication skills, and drive instructional excellence. Today's topic is how to be the leader you always needed but never had. Let me say that one more time. How to be the leader you always needed but never had. You know, the reality when you look at social media, when you hear conversations about education, and you hear from some teachers, right? A lot of what I am hearing is that, you know, a lot of teachers feel underappreciated. They feel like the level of leadership that they had or that they have isn't up to par in terms of them being effective leaders and individuals who actually support their growth and development. And so I'm hearing a lot of information as it relates to the lack of leadership that teachers have. And, you know, many times, if we would be honest, when we step into leadership, many times it's not because we're necessarily motivated by great leaders. It's that we're motivated by the lack of leadership that we wish we had, right? We're motivated by the lack of leaders that we feel are leading in effective ways. And although I think that partly may be true, I think we do need to acknowledge that leadership is more difficult than we give it credit, right? However, I think that if we are looking at becoming effective leaders, you as an aspiring leader, I never want you to lose the posture, the idea, the understanding of what it was like to be in the classroom. Because you continuing to have that perspective, the perspective of being a leader that you wish you had, I think that is going to extremely and significantly enhance your ability to lead. And so again, we're going to talk about how to be the leader you always needed but never had. And that may be you currently as a teacher. You're thinking about the strategies that you wish you had, the support that you wish you had. Or it could have been when you were a student growing up, right? You were seeing some inequitable practices. You were seeing how you and your classmates weren't receiving the level of leadership that you thought that you should have gotten. And so now you're stepping into leadership to make the change that you wished to see in the world. And so I think it's important to consider the reasons why we're stepping into leadership and be the leaders that we wish we had. Right? If you are being the leader that you wish you had, that means that you are being someone that is going to ultimately be best for kids. So when we get into our principles for today, the first one is, in order to lead in terms of being the type of leader that we wish we had, right? The leader that we wish we needed, number one, it's that we have to lead people, not performance. I'm not saying that we shouldn't address performance, but I'm a firm believer that we are leaders of people first and instructional leaders second. And so what that means is, that means that being an instructional leader, that means that being a leader of people, that means that we're focusing on the individuals that we're leading and not necessarily solely lasered focused in on instruction. And I think that instruction definitely moves the needle in terms of increasing student achievement. But if you don't lead people first, you will never get the results that you're looking for. You are a leader of people, Never forget that. As an aspiring leader, someone who's about to step into leadership, you are a leader of people. That is your first and primary role. So even looking at that in the context of being an instructional leader, when you are giving feedback to a teacher, you are understanding that you are a leader of people. You are understanding that your feedback has to make sure that it is not undignifying the person that you are giving the feedback to. Yes, you can give a whole laundry list of areas where you think somebody needs to improve, but is that actually going to be something that moves things forward? Think about how you receive feedback, right? Whether it's constructive or not. If you are giving someone a laundry list of things that they need to improve, I want you to think about how that's going to affect the other person. I am not an advocate for being dishonest. I am not an advocate for sugarcoating what needs to be said, but I am an advocate for understanding that you are leading a person and there's a person on the other side of the feedback that you are giving. And so you have to consider that you are a leader of people. Think about, as a teacher right now, you striving to be an instructional leader in terms of landing that first leadership role. How you take so much pride in what you do that you do feel a level of vulnerability when you are getting observed, when you are having a conversation and somebody is correcting you, even if it's in a constructive way. So as a leader, I want you to consider that as you step into that role. Make sure that you are not stripping the dignity of somebody in the name of being an instructional leader, in the name of just trying to be someone that's going to support the teacher in a way that increases student achievement. I want you to consider the fact that you are a leader of people. You can't develop people you don't genuinely see. You have to see them. You have to build real relationships. Don't just focus on the data or the results that you are seeking to attain. I want you to see people on the other side of the results. I want you to see people on the other side of the feedback. That's what truly increases student achievement. That's what truly creates this culture and climate of belonging, right? It's when you lead people, not just performance. Principle number 2, coach instead of control. Coach instead of control. And I want you to consider coaching up. I want you to consider highlighting the strengths of the individual that you are coaching, whether it's directly coaching in terms of instruction, whether you're coaching them in terms of you helping them to getting to where they need to be in their career once you step into that first leadership role. Whatever aspect of coaching that you are doing, that you are facilitating, I want you to focus on coaching up. What are the behaviors? What are the expectations that the individual is doing well? What are they doing well that you can tap into, that you can highlight so that they are tempted to do more of what is being praised, as opposed to you just kind of looking at areas for growth and constantly criticizing? How can you coach up? How can you highlight what the person is doing well? See, if you want to be the leader that you never had, you want to be somebody that is focused on coaching up. I'm not saying that you don't highlight the areas of improvement, but when it comes to areas of strength, do you give the areas of strength the same energy that you give the areas of improvement? That's the area that I need you to reflect on. Am I giving the same energy to what my teachers are doing well, as opposed to I'm only going to give the energy towards things that they need to do better? Because effective leaders coach up. People grow faster under guidance, not pressure. Now, some people do grow in terms of, having that intense pressure, doing things last minute, whatever the case is. But I want you to be able to provide the level of guidance by coaching up instead of always focusing on control. So number 2 was coach instead of control. Number 3, create the culture you craved. I won't go into a personal story, but I will say that I had a leader who created a culture where people felt fearful as opposed to feeling like they were supported, right? And so one of those, being in that type of culture, being in that type of climate inspired me to then become the leader that I wish that I had. Become a leader that was going to be more inclusive, to become a leader that was going to be somebody that is a servant leader, somebody that supports others regardless of the areas of improvement that I see, right? A leader that is able to humble himself to receive feedback from other people, take what I believe is necessary to increase my leadership, and then continue to move forward with being an instructional leader, being a leader of people, right? That's what this is about. It's being self-reflective as a leader, but understanding that whatever areas that you see need to be improved, you might not be able to improve it right now as an aspiring leader. But once you get into the role, now you see, okay, I'm not going to lead this way. This is not the culture that I want to cultivate, right? These are the things that I'm going to do now that I'm in this seat of leadership, as opposed to perpetuating the cycle of negative cultures and climate that don't move instruction forward. Those are the things that you need to be considering when it comes to creating the culture that you craved. Because some of you were in a culture where you were thriving, where things were moving forward, where you felt supported, where you felt like you were in a true family-oriented environment as a teacher, and you want to continue that legacy. You want to perpetuate that culture. And so the things that you see that were positive, I want you to take those things with you. And the things that you saw that were negative or experienced that were negative, I want you to ensure that you make that you don't perpetuate that culture, that you don't take that with you along your leadership. If you wouldn't thrive in the culture you're building, it's time to rebuild. So sometimes we are building cultures just based off of what we saw and what we experienced. But you have to be intentional about what you're doing on a daily basis, because the way that you speak to people, the type of feedback that you give, your visibility, the levels of support that you provide, all of that creates the culture. And you don't want to just be on autopilot on a daily basis and just going through the motions, because you're also creating a culture. See, culture is going to be created whether you do it intentionally or not. So you want to be intentional about the culture that you are creating. You want to be intentional about your actions, your behavior, and what it is that you're saying and what you're not saying, right? Because what you're not saying is also being amplified just as much, if not more, than what you say on a daily basis. So again, create the culture you craved. Prioritize clarity, consistency, and celebration, which leads us back to what we were talking about before. Make sure that you are coaching up. Celebrate what you are seeing that is aligned with the culture that you want to ultimately perpetuate. Number 4, lead from reflection, not reaction. Don't repeat what hurt you, repair it. Unprocessed leadership wounds can turn into unhealthy habits. Sometimes we are perpetuating cycles that we experience, not even realizing what we're doing. And that's not the position that you want to be in. You want to constantly engage in self-reflection to see how your actions, how your behaviors, how your words have impacted other people. But in order to do that, you have to engage in self-reflection. You have to be a self-reflective leader, whether that means you are journaling, whether that means that you are spending quiet time, whether that means that you are praying, whether that means that you are recording voice notes on your phone and then uploading the transcript to ChatGPT to summarize your areas of strength and areas of improvement. You have to be proactive in your own development. You have to be proactive in your own self-reflection. Because if you are a proactive leader as opposed to a reactive leader, then you are doing things that are going to move instruction and student achievement forward, that are going to move the culture and climate in a direction that is uplifting, in a direction where people feel like they belong, where they feel like the environment being cultivated is about you as the leader supporting them in ways that actually make a difference. So again, principle number 4 was lead from reflection, not reaction. So today we went over 4 principles as it relates to how to be the leader you always needed but never had. So as you reflect on the type of leader that you want to be, as you reflect on why you want to be a school leader, I want you to think about these 4 principles. Number 1 was lead people, not just performance. I cannot reiterate this enough. You are a leader of people first and an instructional leader second. Now, principle number 2, coach instead of control. Make sure that you are coaching up as opposed to continuously just looking at the areas of improvement without giving equal energy, if not more energy, to what people are doing well. Number 3, create the culture you craved. So even if you aren't experiencing a positive culture and climate right now, I want you to take notes because you know that that's not the type of culture that you want to see once you step into school leadership. And principle number 4, lead from reflection, not reaction. You have to repair what internally is going on in you before you step into leadership so that you don't perpetuate negative cycles. Never forget what it was like to be a teacher. Never forget what it was like to be a student. You want to be the leader that's going to serve those 2 populations, right, including families, including the community, in a way that is going to be uplifting, in a way that honors the individuals in these environments. You have to engage in self-reflection. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and if you did, share it with someone else. As always, I hope you have a great week of teaching, leading, and learning. Take care.
I love that you talked about mindset, because mindset is extremely important as you become a school leader. And so that leads us into our second complexity, which is navigating the learning curve, right? Whenever you are promoted to the next level in your career, you will always begin as a novice. So it doesn't matter that you are an effective classroom teacher, you have raving reviews from your students. Becoming a school leader is a different skill set. And so we need to start teaching aspiring school leaders that it takes a level of emotional intelligence and self-awareness to understand just because you got results doesn't mean you're going to get results here. You need to work at this. And so one of the things I constantly think about is the fact that the learning curve can be steep. As a teacher, I'm walking into the building with a set schedule. As a leader, I might have a set schedule if I'm planning properly, but it might immediately become obsolete as soon as I walk in the building. The learning curve that I had to navigate was I'm walking in the building with my bags on. Teachers are firing questions at me. I haven't even made it to my desk yet. How am I navigating that? With being tactful.